Hardwood floors, exposed brick, private entrance, wonderful starter apartment.
3-bedroom Victorian house, high ceilings, parquet floors, renovated throughout. Fireplace, large yard, great for children.
Newly renovated, 1-bedroom elevator building.
Toto, these buildings are so big, and they all look the same, and we'd never know which one we lived in. Is that our house? Or is that our house? Or do we live here? Or here? This won't do at all. They won't even let you stay here. Let's wish again. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Not the American dream.
The vacancy rate in 1980 was under 5% nationwide. This is considered a housing emergency. According to figures compiled by the Essex County Division of Community Development, the rate of available apartments in the county is less than 2%.
It's almost impossible to find an apartment in South Orange.
There are not that many available. The rents they want are extremely high.
Some of the landlords have a set policy. When an apartment becomes vacant, rent will automatically be increased by $100. And I can name the buildings where this takes place in South Orange.
There's not any reason to assume that if a landlord raised his rent, he would, of necessity, improve his building. He would simply improve his bank account.
Increasingly, a smaller percentage of landlords, through their landlord organizations, through management agencies, through their lawyers, are controlling the housing market. So as fewer and fewer people are controlling the housing market, they are able to set rents, decide where to build, and you don't have the free market system working.
Rents have doubled in the county in the past 10 years. In many communities, they have gone even higher.
We treat housing just like any other commodity. We treat it as if it was an expensive European vacation, fancy clothes. The fact of the matter is that housing is not like those commodities. It is a basic necessity. The New Jersey Supreme Court has called it fundamental.
The average apartment unit in northern New Jersey probably can be operated for between $200 to $300 an apartment unit a month. An average 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment unit, all other things being equal. That means that rents, if you didn't have to pay off the capital that you borrowed to produce this housing, rents would be in the neighborhood of $200 to $300 a month. You can see that the cost of the capital and repaying the capital is 2 to 3 times the cost of operating the building. Right? Therefore, if interest rates are very high and the cost of producing it is very high, so you have to borrow more money, you're going to reach a point where the amount necessary to both operate the apartment unit and pay back the money becomes prohibitive.
In the older suburbs, places like East Orange and parts of Montclair, there's also a housing problem or a housing crisis, in that people who live in those areas find that they can no longer afford to pay rent and are faced with deferred maintenance and deteriorated housing conditions.
As the economic squeeze in housing gets worse, landlords often cut back on services and repairs to their buildings. For inner city tenants, this means less heat, faulty plumbing, peeling paint, poor security. However, deterioration of the housing stock in Essex County is not limited to the inner city.
They've also permitted a vast amount of the county to deteriorate way beyond what should have been permitted. And the housing laws have not been enforced adequately in Newark and in many other communities. And houses have deteriorated. With a little bit more upkeep, could still be housing people very comfortably and very well.
Tenants are paying 25, 30, 40, 50, sometimes even higher of a percentage of their income toward rent. They simply don't have any more money in their pockets. So the landlord can't raise the rent any longer. If the landlord can't raise the rent, there's only one thing that landlord can do to maintain the level of profit that got him involved in this business in the first place. And that is to not make repairs, not make maintenance, not keep maintenance up.
Gentrification on the Lower East Side.
The time's coming. A lot of people in this neighborhood are going to get thrown out of their homes. The government's helping the landlords to throw them out of their homes. The city itself says there's 60,000 people living in the streets, and the churches say there's over 100,000 people. Some say there's 250,000 people living in the streets of New York City. And, you know, the city does diddly squat to try and give people a place to live.
There are Spanish, there are whites, there are Orientals, there are blacks, there are Haitians, I mean, there are Dominicans, you know, I mean, they're all kinds. And they're living in the street because they don't know how to defend themselves. So right away they go to the city, and the city says, yo, man, go to a shelter.
What is the sense of going to a shelter if you gotta walk around with your worldly possessions? If you're afraid to go to sleep at night because somebody's gonna kill you or mug you or rape you or kill you or something, how can that be an alternative?
See, that belongs over here. Then I'm gonna take the plastic, and after it's nailed in, put it this way. Okay, I got it over here. I got it.
Quiere hacer más trabajo de la cuenta, you know? Y después se encojona, y a mí me encojona y me dan ganas de meterle en la próxima.
We have to deal with Mother Nature. Sometimes she's nice to us, but then sometimes she just says, man, I gotta rain on you. And it's hard because it's hard for us to cook.
Please push the puddle over there. Thank you. You can't sit nowhere. You can't cook.
You can't cook.
Everything is wet. Wait, Steven, stay there. Michael? Steven needs your help. He's got a broken leg and he's carrying that mattress and he can't climb up.
Oh, fuck.
We
thought that it was really, really important for people to know that poor people have a right to live. I mean, we have a right to eat. We should have a space of our own. We shouldn't be pushed out of our neighborhoods. We shouldn't be considered garbage because we're not, we're people. We have feelings, we think, we hurt, we feel pain. We go through hunger, we get sick. We feel happiness, we feel joy, and we feel everything everybody else does. What makes us any less of a person? Why? Because we don't have money?
You know what I pay a month rent?
Are you poor?
Yes. And I pay $150 a month rent.
All right, rent control. How long you been living there?
About 7 years.
7 years.
But there's places like this. There's many places in there, and then and New York City is putting up places. I see the poorest people live in the best houses, and they're living good on welfare.
Where?
Now I have a cousin that she's about 70 years old right now, and she live in New York City for 50 years and have never paid over $150 rent. Have 6-room apartment.
How long has she been living there?
For 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're doing this because you want to do this.
No, we're doing this because we don't believe what the system is offering us.
Yeah, but you don't have to. That's the point. You don't have to.
But what's the system offering us?
You do not have to live like this.
That's very easy for you to say. You pay $150 a month.
And you can also get a job.
We all work.
That's right.
You work?
We all work.
You work?
We all
We
work.
all work.
Well, if you're working, you don't have to live like this.
Why not?
I wouldn't even let my dog live in a place like this.
Well, thank you.
Well, then
tell
there's
you.
two
Then
words. Bye.
Then I would rather have you leave my property now. Because you insulted me, man, and this is my home. And nobody
But I'm
insults
saying
my
that you
home.
don't have to
No,
live
man. We don't want to talk to you no more. Now,
You don't
just
have to
leave.
live like this.
I said just leave before I sick my dogs on you.
You can't do that.
Well, you know, what do you say, man? That I'm living like a dog?
No,
I'm a human being surviving, man. We
But
don't
you don't
need,
know, but you
look,
don't have to
I don't
do
need
that.
people like you coming in here trying to tell me that you wouldn't even let your dog live here. These are the ignorant people, man, that don't realize that that same guy that came over here and says that we don't have to live like this, sooner or later, he's going to wind up living in a lot like this because he will not be able to afford the rent.
These people over here talk us down, throw things out the window.
They
These
just
right here.
They just bought that
These
building.
people
are
don't
getting
realize
evicted.
that they're going to get thrown out.
Then where are they
going
gonna
to
go?
go?
They're not
No, they're
living
not
with
gonna-
me?
Here.
Not
They
with us.
sure aren't going across the street.
Room.
the homeless.
No place home.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. No place like home. There's no place like home. Am I home?
Justiceville.
Justice for Justiceville. We haven't seen something like this since the 1930s, when the unemployed and homeless were creating what were called Hoovervilles. There are more Americans under the poverty line today than in the last 18 years when President Johnson declared war on poverty. We have 34 million Americans living below the poverty line.
Justice for Justiceville. Justice for Justiceville. Justice. Over 30,000 homeless people in LA. It's the #1 city where the homeless stay. No jobs, no ride, no bed, no frills. So we started up a shelter called Justiceville. Got the nod from the owner of a vacant lot to put the plywood, cardboard shelters up. Took pride in the property and made it work. You got to stop that skid row curse.
Justiceville is a community of homeless people who have spontaneously come together and have discovered that we have a model or a concept to present to the government and to the public on how to shelter homeless people, how to care for ourselves and get us out of Skid Row, out of homelessness, or at least to make the best out of a bad situation. Justiceville has a lot of benefits, a lot of qualities, a lot of challenges to society. Justiceville is it's a statement. It's a social, political, economic, religious statement. It's with a lot of, as I said earlier, benefits as opposed, let me put it this way, it's a challenge also to the old style of sheltering homeless people. In other words, the dormitory style, such as like the San Julian or the mission that you see not only in California, but throughout the country. It's, we think that it's an idea whose time has come. We think that it's revolutionary in how to shelter homeless people, if I can use that word, revolutionary. Simply a change, and a much needed change. And it's very inexpensive. We think that if this concept, what you see here, is really a prototype with all the shanty appearance and so forth, this is a prototype. If this concept can be adopted by the county governments or the city or whoever, we can make a model, and then after study and research, we can then have more of these built throughout the county of Los Angeles very rapidly. Not only Los Angeles, but throughout the whole state of California. Very rapidly and very inexpensively, and we can put a very serious dent in homelessness on the mental and the physical plane. You know, we don't have all the resources we need. We're hanging on by a thread, actually. If Justiceville exists, if it lives, it'll be a miracle.
This is a pretty good place, and I feel safe here. You know, I would rather stay here than most of the hotels and stuff. And Ted and T and a few other guys, you know, they helped arrange this, and myself too. We talked to the owner and stuff, and now we're just trying to get up on our feet. Now the county's messing with us about the health. The fire department's messing with us about the fires. And, you know, they're just jacking us around a lot. But we're going to stay here and fight.
Don't give up. That's what they want us to do, is give up, panic, and freak out. We're not going to do it, right? 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 Viva la
Justiceville. The homeless situation is overkill. No room for us in the welfare line. Justiceville is a sign of the time, sign of the time, sign of the time.
A person could have failed tremendously, could be a big failure to life. But as long as there's a place like Justiceville, that person has a chance to be human again. After everybody else put the odds on him, you know, he'll never come back. He'll never make it. He'll never be nothing. But in Justiceville, they always leave that question mark, hope.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Homeless in Philadelphia.
My name is Forrest McFarland, and I was born in Philly, but I was raised in Chester. I was first out on the streets when I was kicked out of the house. I was probably kicked out on my 18th birthday. I was on the streets then. That's when we was allowed to have welfare. I applied for welfare, and I had got our training program that lasted for a year. I got a plaque and everything, but I couldn't get a job after that. And I had depended on welfare in between that. But the major thing for me that when I'm out on the streets, I have no one to depend on. I'm young, I know, but my parents were divorced, and I didn't grow up, none of my relatives, and my mother, she don't like this, so I have nowhere to go. I stay in the house all the time. I don't have, friends with houses and all that, so I have nowhere to go. And the major thing about Act 75, that's a major thing that hit me.
Act 75 is a Pennsylvania law that makes 18 to 45-year-olds without dependents ineligible for welfare 9 months out of the year.
It's a whole generation of people that are kicked out doing Act 75. They're getting 3 months a year, and everybody can't get a job within them. That are going to be kicked out, it's going to be left out of society. And after a few years on the street, or a few months or whatever, you're not going to, your whole lifestyle going to change. You're going to be a hustler. You're going to be a mission. You're going to be running from mission to mission. And the first thing is going to be survival. It's not getting a job. It's going to be survival.
Describe for me what would be a typical homeless person.
Typical homeless person. Just one that minds his business, searching for something.
You find there's many homeless people that are typical in that, they mind their business?
Sure, plenty. A lot of homeless people don't even like to communicate, really. They like to stay to themselves.
Are you like that?
At times, yeah, at times. Sometimes you don't even want to deal with society at one time, You're so disgusted with society. You just want to find a rock and hide into it. I'm quite sure all of us has felt like that at one time or another.
I was asked a little bit earlier, it didn't want to be seemed as if it was just black people that are out on the street right now, because it isn't. And I know specifically that every day that I go to a shelter, I see more and more, of white race coming into a homeless situation. And by next year, there's going to be more of it.
I feel it's a little different. There are increasingly more black, men on the streets, increasingly more, because I remember in St. John's you see speckles of white, now you see dots. Because I've been to Brotherhood, St. Francis, although whites and blacks, they generally, you got some of them that go to this mission, some go to that mission, but it is increasingly black. I don't know why, but I know that it's just that, I don't know. A lot of the white ones I know, they live in abandoned houses. They don't come to missions. They just live in abandoned houses and they have no income and all that kind of stuff. But I know that blacks, I know it's overwhelming. They come to Center City, or they mainly come to Center City. I don't know why, but I guess it's for survival reasons.
I also noticed something else. You have people of different educational backgrounds. Because if I see a new face, by the way he acts, I could tell what level of thinking he is. There's a whole lot of families. I'm not talking about race of family, I'm talking about any general race of family. I see families, little children, coming out in the street too. And sometimes I would like to cry. Stand there and cry.
I don't judge a man until one day I froze and I had no place to go. In a few days, I was out on the street freezing cold. Either I was gonna die, I would have did anything that day. And sometimes when you see a homeless person rob a man, you say, did he have to do that? Did he, You know, Diddy in his mind, he couldn't take it no more. He said, I see all these robbers and muggers getting everything, and if I just rob this one person, my problem would be okay. You know what I mean? You never know. And when you see people getting clothes from missions that's living on the street and they go out and sell them, you say, dag. Yeah, I could say, dag, they go out and they sell something. But then I could say, man, what has this man really been through? I don't really know. I just see him wearing clean clothes he got from his mission or whatever. But then if I was on the outside, I could say, wow, look at him. He dressed nice. He ain't homeless. He just, you know. But then again, it's always two sides of the story. And I can understand the public's misunderstanding. I can understand because we all grew up with Red Scout laughing at a bum. You know, that's society. You know, we all looked at people poor as that way. So people are conditioned to not accept us, to be, and we are not considered Americans because it's prosperity, and we're not prosperity. You know, we're the bad side. So we're also, that makes a bad statement about America. So, you know, when they can't say apple pie now. So we are, in a sense, we are victims and we are the enemies, not by choice, you know, of an idealistic society.
Exposure, dishwasher, exposed beams, fully renovated with new floors, new bath, new windows.
3-bedroom house, prime location, very sunny.
Sunny 1-bedroom, wall-to-wall carpeting, sun deck, floor-to-ceiling windows. This is a must-see.
Charming 2-bedroom apartment in prestigious building, 24-hour doorman and concierge, marble bath, heated kitchen, parquet floors.
Nice view,
5-bedroom ranch style,
but a bit cold and wet sometimes. I don't think I want to stay here always, though. Let's try again. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
3-bedroom Victorian house, high ceilings, parquet floors,
Minnesota, Ames, Iowa, Goleta, California, Dallas, Texas, Everett, Washington, all the way across the country.
What do I do?
Everything.
Just about.
It's the love of the land and the love of the animals. I'm just me. I'm trying to be me. You understand? Yeah, I do.
He did.
We're going to uplink, send the programs up, and hopefully somebody will be out there to pull them down.
He did.
And if you think you can displace us, then you haven't seen our faces. No, you can't just take our homes away without us fighting. No, you can't just take our homes away.
There's no place like home. 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 There's no place like home.
Dishwasher, exposed beams, fully renovated with new floors, new bath, new windows.
3-bedroom house, prime location, very sunny.
Oh, this is a nice space, but somehow it doesn't feel like home. And $12.50 a month is an awful lot of money. And they still won't let you stay here with me, Toto. Let's try again. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
St. Francis Residence.
We have what no other SR hotel has in New York City at this point. We have a benevolent landlord. So you don't have problems if somebody doesn't get their check, the landlord throws them out immediately, which is sort of a standard procedure in almost any and all SROs. So we're able to keep people. We don't have a fast turnover of people, so they stay. People tend to stay here. So you get to know them more. It becomes more family than just clients.
I lived at the bus terminal. I lived underneath this tunnel of the subway where the rats were, and it was terrible. I was one of them one time, and I know how it feels. I was one of them one time. And here we keep ourselves clean. We have a place to shower. We have a place to eat. And we have friends here. We mix with one another. And we have the Tuesday meetings here. The staff has their meetings first, and then after they have their meetings, we have the tenants meeting.
What we are is a group of workers who work as a team, however we are from different agencies. And the agencies will pay the salary and are responsible for providing us with this personnel. It's New York City Health and Hospital Corporation through Bellevue Hospital, the state mental health through the aftercare system, New York City Department of Social Services through an office called Crisis Intervention Service, the Hudson Guild Settlement House on the west side. They're affiliated with St. Vincent's Hospital and St. Francis Church, who are the owners of the building.
And I'm placed on site here as the project coordinator, which means I'm liaison with Social Security office with anybody who has problems with Social Security, you know, not receiving their checks, or maybe they have to apply, or they have to be recertified. Also with Department of Welfare, some people in the building are on home relief, public assistance. There's problems about receiving their checks or keeping medical appointments, things like that. I'm a liaison for that. I do whatever I have to do. Almost every month, at least 1 or 2 or 3 people don't get their check, either from welfare or Social Security or SSI, so we're dealing with that constantly. A lot of the problems are physical illness, where we may have to call an ambulance for a person. We have in the building a large number of people who have past psychiatric histories in hospitals. And with our support here, they're able to live in the community. But sometimes, even on medication or so, if they're under enough stress, which sometimes happens, they can do, well, the term is decompensate, and they may have to be hospitalized, so that becomes a problem. Luckily, we have a liaison with Bellevue Hospital, and so it's not too difficult if someone gets ill to get them back in the hospital, or, you know, if that's needed.
How often is that likely to happen?
Oh, for the whole, taking everyone into account, maybe once every 2.5, 3.5 months. Different person, I mean a different person, not the same person over and over.
Doesn't sound to me like that's very often.
It's not very often, no.
We are the city.
I'm here with Curtis Davis and Andrew Jones, and they are the founders of GRIP, which is the group that has been talking about Roxbury seceding from the city of Boston and incorporating as its own town. Now that's going to be an interesting piece of work that's going to happen, but it's more than just an exercise to me, and I know it is to Curtis and Andrew.
Well, what I found out is that Roxbury was a town that was founded in 1630, and at the time it was the largest town in the area. I think it was over 10,000 acres. It stretched from almost downtown into Boston all the way out to the Dedham line. And I found out that it was annexed to the city of Boston in 1868 behind water rights and other kinds of issues. But what I also found that was even more interesting was that persons in the community had worked on this in the 60s. That in the 60s there was a tremendous frustration with our relationship to the city of Boston, that we felt that our needs weren't being met at all, that people like Byron Rushing, Mel King, Chuck Turner, Dan Richardson, Alex Rodriguez, other people worked on this, and that really, people really haven't stopped working on it, because if you think about it, every agency that's been created in the area has been done so in the name of self-control and self-determination. So all we've really done is top that off and offer a celebration in the name of incorporation as a town, to finish that process off now once and for all, and get on with the job of running our own affairs.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
There's no place like home. Home. Oh, there's no place like home.
Take back the hill.
Because of the severe housing shortage in Boston, Back of the Hill became interested in converting Brigham Village, some abandoned nurses' quarters owned by the New England Baptist Hospital, into affordable public housing.
Back of the Hill first started getting involved in the issue of Brigham Village in September. June and Bill went up in early September and saw the actual village site firsthand and close up for the first time. Prior to that, the community was led to believe by the hospital officials that the buildings were severely under code, that they were unlivable, that they couldn't be rehabbed, and they were better off being destroyed. When June and Bill actually went in and saw that they had ceramic tile floors and they had nice kitchens and they were brick, and we had been trying to work with the Bricklayers Union to build affordable brick units, and we knew how difficult it was, they said, wait a minute, this could be used. In this day and age of housing crisis, this should not be destroyed just for a parking lot. So when I started working here mid-September, we started writing letters to the trustees and the hospital administration and to various political actors, like mid-September, saying that, this is a shame for these buildings to be torn down and maybe we can do something.
Raymond McAfoose, administrator of the New England Baptist Hospital, agreed to meet with Mayor Ray Flynn and with Back of the Hill to discuss the neighborhood's concerns about renovating the housing. But during negotiations, the hospital began demolishing Brigham Village.
All the trees, put them in a tree museum. And they charge the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone?
Well, we were under the impression that they weren't going to demolish them until the negotiations had been worked out. The mayor's office was still in contact with them. David Scondrus' office was in touch with them up until the day before they were demolished, and we were writing the proposal the day before they were demolished. On April 13th, when the hospital started demolishing the Brigham Village, there were a number of violations. First of all, they didn't have all the necessary permits for demolition from the city of Boston. So there were federal and state inspectors on site, and there was a lot of friable asbestos in the basements that weren't removed, and there were asbestos shingles that were allowed to be crumbled underneath the bulldozers. And the City Health and Hospitals Division even noted in their final report that hadn't the community gone up to stop the bulldozers, they felt that they had every intention of burying the asbestos in the basements of these buildings and just going over them with the bulldozers.
I cannot speak for the contractor. What I can say, I suppose, is that certainly when the hospital does have a construction manager. His responsibility as far as the hospital sees is that he in turn hires subcontractors who are responsible for whatever phase or job has to be done next. As far as the hospital's feeling is in hiring that construction manager and his in turn hiring subcontractors, you have to believe that the proper steps are being followed and at the the requirements are being followed and everything.
I think they were perfectly right in tearing them down. After all, they were like Quonset huts. I don't think they were housing at all.
Mayor Flynn temporarily halted the demolition, and the back of the hill, angered at these legal and moral violations, subpoenaed Raymond McAfoose, administrator of the New England Baptist Hospital, Frank Taylor from HEFA, Health Educational Facilities Authority, Ron Jones from Health and Hospitals, Tom Rogers from the City Building Department, and other officials to a public hearing. But despite the neighborhood's efforts to stop the hospital, construction continued and no penalties were imposed.
Not one thing has been done about the laws that were already broken in, and their total disregard for the health and well-being of this community. It seems as if everything's falling between the cracks between city regulations and state regulations.
Lots of old world charm in this totally renovated, beautiful, newly renovated, one-bedroom duplex, hardwood floors, marble exposed brick, private and wonderful stuff.
There's no place like home. 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 There's no place like
Poletown Lives.
Born in that house, Fiona. Been there 59 years.
How long did your family live in it before that?
My mother and dad bought that house in 1910 when they got married. And they were married at St. John's Church, right across the boulevard from us, behind us.
And they want to tear that down too?
Yeah, they want to tear that down too. All my children were born in that hospital. About 11 or 12 of my 21 grandchildren were born in that hospital. I mean, it's home, you know? And boy, I'm telling you, the things they're doing to us, it's pathetic. And they're getting away with it.
Why are they getting away with it?
That I don't know. We've been fighting.
They don't stop and think, well, what effect it's got on my life, my wife's.
Mr. Gale, all we're trying to do is protect our homes.
I hear you.
That's all we're trying to do.
And
all right,
really
I sleep with my shotgun laying on my bed, and it's loaded. They've been burning houses all in this neighborhood. And if they try to burn ours,
what is that about?
Come on, work yourself away around
they're destroying the neighborhood so they can condemn it.
The people of Poletown lost every additional appeal to the courts and to corporate and political leaders. Smoke and theft drove all but the diehards out of the area.
We had 3 fires right within the same area. They're all filling companies. It's been going on all day. Now, I don't know if it's organized or not. But arson squad seems to be awful busy, and at every fire they're here.
Seems each time you start to get one under control, another one starts up.
That's correct. So they're moving faster than we can, and faster than our arson squad can too.
do you think about all this?
I think it's unspeakable. People work all their lives for homes and businesses.
And now it's being torn down.
That's right. And for what? They call this progress?
It is somewhat discouraging. I think there is no democracy. I mean, you have democracy if you, as long as you don't tangle with the power structure.
Father Karasevich, the parish priest, was silenced by the archdiocese after he had publicly criticized the city, General Motors, and the archdiocese. On June 17, 1981, Father Karasevich was evicted from the church rectory. He was never given a new permanent assignment. Poletown residents and supporters decided to take the law into their own hands on the day the parish priest was evicted. They moved sleeping bags into the church basement, locked the doors, and occupied the church.
These people responsible for this are worse than the communists in Poland. That's the message I gave before. I guess they couldn't understand it before. They might as well get it straightened out.
Including the archdiocese, Father?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because of how fast everything was done?
Because it's a criminal act. To go down to a very basic definition of stealing, and it's simply taking somebody else's property against his will. That's all it is. So this property was taken away from them, from the people, against their will.
If you had it to do over again, what would you do differently?
We'd like to get more people involved. I have no regrets about anything we've done. I would regret anything for perhaps not doing enough. But for what was done, we have no regrets. No.
Get them back across the line.
Mayor Bernard Sanders.
In point of fact, I'm delighted to tell you what we have done in the area of housing in Burlington, and I think given the enormous constraints working against us, our Office of Community and Economic Development and other people associated in housing have come up with some very imaginative and dynamic programs, and we are making some significant successes. But on the other hand, I would not be telling you the truth if I thought that Burlington or any other community in the state of Vermont or the state itself was beginning to touch upon the problem. Burlington is not the only community in the state of Vermont that has a severe housing crisis. In point of fact, my guess would be that we need tens of thousands of units of low and moderate income housing being built in the state. We have construction workers ready to go to build it. We have forests ready to provide the wood. We have the technology to do it. The major thing that we lack is the capital to build that kind of housing. I mean, there are certain legitimate questions of how you go about doing it. But I'm quite confident that the people of Vermont can solve that problem. What we cannot solve at the moment, whether we can talk about how we can do that, is to find the financing available to do what we all know has to be done. I do not, I believe, have to tell the people in this room what the President of the United States is doing with regard to federal aid to housing. and federal aid to large numbers of other programs as well. Reagan wants to destroy revenue sharing. Now, what revenue sharing will mean for the city of Burlington is the loss of $1 million, which will mean that we will have to raise property taxes and not be able to provide funding to many low-income groups and organizations and service organizations that desperately need it. He's talking about destroying community development block grants. Those are the money that enable our CEDO office to function. That is the money that is going into the housing rehabilitation program in the city of Burlington, which is rehabilitating dozens and dozens and dozens of units of housing. If you walk into Burlington's Old North End today, you will find that that community is in far better shape than it was 4 years ago. And the reason for that is that we have done a reasonably good job in pumping money into that community to rehab old housing. Much of the housing in Burlington is old, and it is our view, rather than tearing it down, we intend to rehab it. And we have done a pretty good job. The president proposes that we not have any more money to do that. In addition to that, you'll notice that all over America, and I'm sure you'll be discussing this issue today, there is very little new low-income housing being built. And the reason for that is they are stopping federal aid for low-income housing. They are stopping federal aid for Section 8. So the bottom line is that in terms of future housing programs, the situation regarding Washington is totally dismal. But it's not just dismal for housing. Don't feel that he's being prejudiced against you. He is destroying every program necessary for low-income people, for working people, for the elderly. You come back from Washington, and I was just there, and you get the feeling that not only is he going to war against the people of Nicaragua, he is very clearly going to war against the people of America, especially the poor people and the working people. It is war. It is class warfare in a way that I have never seen in my 4 years in Maine.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. But Toto, this gentrification, throwing people out of their houses for profit, it's bad news. And if we move into this building, we'd be breaking the rent strike. And if we broke the rent strike, then all of these people would lose their homes. Looks like we can't move in here.
Sunny one bed.
Lots of light.
Maybe we'll be on the streets tonight.
Floor-to-ceiling windows. This is a must. Spacious 5-bedroom ranch-style house with full electric kitchen, family room with fireplace,
Exposed
new
brick. Great for
ocean,
children. Great for
near,
entertaining.
beautiful
Perfect for a growing family. Gorgeous sunny. I have lived in this city as my mother did before me, and you can't just take my home away without me fighting. No, you can't just take my home away. Well, you make your city plans, try your damnedest to ignore us, but you can't just take our homes away without us fighting. No, you can't just take our homes away.
Slum landlord of the Lower East Side.
Well, I stumbled poorly down the street one day. Who was rolling his Royce my way? Slum landlord of the Lower East Side. Slum landlord gonna make him my guy. Well, the first block that I busted, well, it made me a grand. The second block I arsoned, well, it turned into sand. The third block I assembled, well, I gentrified to hell. I made 2 million greenies, you could say I'm doing well. Slum landlord of the Lower East Side. Slum landlord gonna make him my guy. The zoning and the tax laws, we can make amends. The mayor and the governor, they are my best friends. The Ricans and the boogies, well, they're a piece of shit. Don't look at me like that, you punk, it's gonna be a hit. Slum landlord of the Lower East Side. Slum landlord gonna make him my guy. There's no investor in the world that's half as slick and sound. My swinging little shyster from Alphabet Town. It's really very hip to sail his motor ship where we tote that free base down. Slum landlord of the Lower East Side. Slum landlord gonna make him my guy. slum landlord of the lowest east side. I'm gonna make him my guy.